Hey everybody, it's Caitlin Urbanis, and this is a part 2 on healthier knees segment that I'm doing. Part 1 we were focusing on the ankles and the foot, and now we're going to come up and work on the hips a little bit. I like it in that order because just like any foundation in construction, things kind of work from the bottom up. So now we're working on to the hips. Just like in other videos, we're going to be working on a lot of breath work with what we do today. Everything's going to be paired with breath. And the most important thing is going to be bracing. So quick note on bracing. When you inhale, I'd like you to inhale through your nose, and when you exhale, try to exhale through a very small space in your lips and create a lot of pressure in your core musculature. So you're going to feel everything coming in from the sides and maybe back. You might also feel these lower ribs pushing down and back, and maybe even the top of the pelvis comes back. So exhaling through a very small hole like this, creating a lot of pressure. So bracing, or sometimes I like to call that balloon breathing as well. So step 1 in our hip mobility today, or our prep work, is going to be dead bug. And I like this because it really helps put the pelvis and the ribs in line and gets our core ready to keep everything else in line. So you're going to lay back. If you have a gym dog, that's preferable. It really helps with the gains. So lay all the way back, bring your knees up, trying to keep a 90-degree angle in your knees and a 90-degree angle in the hips, and then bring your hands straight up. From here, you're going to practice the breathing technique. So you're going to inhale in through the nose, and then exhale out through the lips, really working hard to squeeze all of the air out, blowing out for maybe 5, 6, or even 7 seconds, depending on how much pressure you're creating, the small space that you're creating through those lips. You might even feel your pelvis rock back or forward just a little bit, depending on how much space and how much correction you need there. Sometimes you see people add in a leg or an arm, like this. That's going to be an advanced technique. Sometimes doing that and creating that extension causes you to lose the tension in that movement. So if you're just starting out, you haven't practiced it, try and just stay with the knees and the arms elevated and just work on the breath work there. From there, we're going to go into a kneeling hip stretch. And I've got a nice thick pad here that I'm going to use because it feels way better. So we're going to come into a kneeling position. And I've got a 90-degree angle in my knee here, and what I'm doing is I'm working to create as much length in the front of this hip as possible. Now I'm not going to drop down into a lunge like so, because a lot of times we lose the stretch there. So I'm just working on sitting up and out of this hip as far as possible. I might try and even rotate this hip forward a little bit just so that I can elongate this space here. And it helps to try and drive the shoulders up and back as well. And just breathe deeply through this space. Once you've spent a little bit of time here, I like to add in a QL stretch. So from this side that we're stretching here, and I've got my right side going, I'm going to go ahead and lift my right arm up and try and reach over while I maintain a stacked position. So I'm not reaching forward, I'm not arching backwards, I'm really trying to stay stacked here while I create as much length from my knee up through my hip, up through the shoulder, and then out through the fingertips as much as possible. All right, so make sure you do both sides on that. And then I'm going to come into a low lunge position. So I'm going to create actually a little bit more space here between my knee and my feet. And I'm going to bring my hands down inside of my foot. This might be a little bit tight for some of you. This position right here might be enough of a stretch. If this is really, really difficult, you can always use a yoga block here, or you can grab some books, phone books. If people, I don't know if you guys still have any of those, I don't think I do. But a pillow would work too. Anything that you can stack here and get your hands a little bit higher. Once you get into a comfortable position here, what we're going to do is we're going to rotate. So I want you to keep your hand down inside the foot, and then on your inhale, I want you to reach up and rotate this core away from the knee as much as possible, and then exhale back down. So we're inhaling and reaching, and exhaling and bringing it back down. After 6 to 8 of that, then I want you to rotate the opposite direction. So we're going to keep those hands inside the foot, but this time I'm going to switch hands and I'm going to twist my chest towards that front knee. inhale it back down. And when I exhale, I'm gonna reach again. So again, 6 to 8. You might feel like one side is way tighter than the other side, and maybe you want to take a couple extra repetitions on one side or the other, and that's totally fine. Where you feel the stiffness or the tightness, you can do more or less on that side. From here, we're gonna switch it up. Rather than trying to stretch, right now we're gonna activate. So we're gonna move on from stretching the front, and we're gonna activate through the back, and we're gonna come to a bird dog. So just find a nice hands and knees position, and extend one leg straight behind you. A lot of people like to extend the opposite arm as well, but for the purpose of activating through the hip, I like to just raise the leg and leave the arm down, and then just making sure that my hips are stacked. So I don't have this back leg rotating or lifting too high. I want to make sure the front of that hip is pointing straight down towards the floor, and I've got nice length here, and then I'm breathing fully. So maybe even practice your bracing technique here. She doesn't appreciate the bird dog. Sorry, Zula. We'll move on from that. Okay, we'll come into 90-90 rotations. So for 90-90 rotations, I like to start seated with my knees up. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop both knees over to one side and then face my hips towards my shin. I've got a parallel shin here to where my hips are. And you might find that this is really tight, this is really stiff. You want to stop right here, that's totally fine. Or you can bend down into it just a little bit. Then we're going to come up, bring these knees back up, and we're going to drop them down to the other side. Again, trying to work for a parallel. So parallel shin to front of my hips, and maybe a slight bend down into it. So just work forward and back. You can go as slowly as you want here, especially if one side is really tight and tender. Okay, and last thing that we're gonna do is come into a bridge pose. So final piece, bringing it all together to find more length in the front of the hip and more engagement in the back of the hip. So you know your bridge, come all the way back. Heels are going to set right behind your hips. And then drive your heel and your big toe down into the mat to lift your hips up. So really push through the big toe, really push through the heel, and squeeze your glutes here to hold your hips up high. Find as much extension in the front of the hips as you can, and don't forget your bracing. I like a slower eccentric on these to really help retrain that neural system. And make sure the knees are tracking out as well. Really hard glute squeeze to the top. Find as much extension as you can, and a nice, slow, eccentric. If any of you guys have any questions on anything that we just went over, please feel free to leave a comment or shoot me a message directly. And thanks for watching.